and welcome. In this video we're going to be completing Form I-751, Petition to Remove Conditions on Residence. The top section of this form is for USCIS, and this area here is for an attorney if you have one. You will start completing the form here, and you're starting with your last name followed by your first name and then your middle name. Type or print in black ink. Other names used. List all other names you have ever used, including aliases, maiden name, and nicknames. If you need extra space to complete this section, use the space provided in Part 11, Additional Information. In this example, this applicant has not gone by any other names, so we put NA in the boxes indicating not applicable. Other information, date of birth. So this is the date of birth of the applicant. Remember the format: 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and 4-digit year. Continuing. Country of birth, country of citizenship or nationality. Provide all that apply. Your country of citizenship goes here. Remember, it does not necessarily have to be the country of your birth, or if you are not a citizen of any country, you place or type stateless in this box with an explanation in Part 11, Additional Information. Alien registration number, if any, your alien registration number goes here. Social security number here. USCIS online account number, if any, goes here. We see this applicant doesn't have an online account number, so we indicate none. Marital status. This applicant is applying as a married person, so we select the box that's applicable. You would need to select the box that's applicable to your situation, whether it be single, divorced, or widowed. Date of marriage, you supply that information here. Place of marriage, you provide the city and state where you got married. 13, if the marriage through which you gained conditional residence has ended, provide the date it ended. Date of divorce or date of death. In this case, since this person is still married, then this information here would be not applicable. If any of this is applicable to you where your marriage ended, then you would need to place the date that the marriage ended. Number 14, conditional residence expires on. You would need to state this information here. You will find this information on your permanent resident card. So look at your permanent resident card to know what date the conditional residence expires. Moving on. Mailing address, in care of name if applicable, goes here. Street address. And this is for the mailing address. So you would put the mailing address in this section. Is your physical address different than your mailing address? In this case, it's no. So since it's no, then you would put not applicable in these boxes. If you are not able to type in NA for not applicable after the form is printed, you may go ahead and write NA in with a black ink pen. If you answered yes to item number 16, provide your physical address below. So if your mailing address is different from your physical address, your mailing address goes in here, your physical address goes in here. We're moving on. Additional information about you. Are you in removal, deportation, or recession proceedings? Select what's applicable to you. So you need to read all these questions and select the applicable yes or no answer here. If you answered yes to item number 20, provide a detailed explanation in part 11, additional information, or on a separate sheet of paper, and refer to the what initial evidence is required section of the form I-751 instructions to determine what criminal history document to include with your petition. So question 20 says, have you ever been arrested, detained, charged, indicted, fined, or imprisoned for breaking or violating any law or ordinance excluding traffic regulations, or committed any crime which you were not arrested in the United States or abroad? So this section here refers to question 20 if you select yes as your answer. Moving on. If you are married, is this a different marriage than the one through which you gained conditional resident status? You need to select what's applicable to you right here. So if this is a different marriage than the one that you gain your conditional resident status through, then you would select yes. If it is the same marriage, you select no. Have you resided at any other address since you became a permanent resident? If your answer is yes, then provide a list of all addresses where you have resided since becoming a permanent resident and the dates you resided at those locations in the space provided in Part 11, additional information. Is your spouse or parent spouse currently serving with or employed by the U.S. government and serving outside the United States? Select what's applicable to you here. Biographic information. Select your ethnicity, height, weight, eye color, hair color. Moving on. Basis for petition. Joint filing. My conditional residence is based on my marriage or my parents' marriage to a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, and I am filing this joint petition together with, select only one box. In this case, the applicant is jointly filing with a spouse. Hence, this box is checked. 1B would be for a child who is filing as a derivative applicant based on the fact that one of his or her parent gained status by marrying a permanent resident or U.S. citizen. If you are filing I-751 individually, you need to select one of these options under which you fall. My conditional residence is based on my marriage or my parents' marriage to a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. I am unable to file a joint petition with my spouse or my parent's spouse because. Select the one that's applicable to you. Go through 1C, D, E, F, and G and select what's applicable to you. So this section goes for persons who are filing by him or herself. So you are not filing with a spouse or you are not filing with a parent. Part 4. Information about the U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident spouse. So this section is referring to the applicant's spouse, and that spouse would be either the permanent resident or U.S. citizen. That person's information goes here. Relationship. So in this case, the applicant is the spouse of a U.S. citizen. If you are a child filing, you would check this box. Moving on. Other information. The name of the permanent resident or U.S. citizen goes here, as well as that person's date of birth, that person's social security number, that person's alien number, if applicable. In the case of a U.S. citizen, that person would not have an A number. In this case, it's the case where the spouse of the applicant is a U.S. citizen, so hence we place none in this box. Physical address of the permanent resident or U.S. citizen goes here. Part 5. Information about your children. And this is information about the applicant's children. Provide information on all of your children. If you need extra space to complete this section, use the space provided in Part 11, additional information. The name goes here, date of birth, a number if any. Is this child living with you? Select what's applicable to you. Is this child applying with you? Select what's applicable. Moving on. In Part 5 here, you are required to put the physical address of your child if you have children, and if you have more than one child, then you would fill in the information in all these spaces. So all this section here in Part 5 is for you to provide information on your children. Since this applicant has only one child, then we put NA in all the sections that are not applicable. Moving on to Part 6, accommodations for individuals with disabilities and or impairments. Read the information in the Form I-751 instructions before completing this part. Are you requesting an accommodation because of your disability and or impairments? Select what's applicable to you. Are you requesting an accommodation because of your spouse's disabilities and or impairments? Select what's applicable to you. Are you requesting an accommodation because of your included children's disabilities and or impairments? Select what's applicable to you. If you answered yes to item numbers 1 to 3, select any applicable box for item numbers 4A to 4C. Provide information on the disabilities and or impairments for each person. So from number 4A to 4C, you would select what's applicable in your case. If it's not applicable, you could always write after the form is printed NA in the boxes or leave them blank. Continuing. Part 7, petitioner statement, contact information, acknowledgement of appointment at USCIS Application Support Center, certification, and signature. Read the information on penalties in the penalties section of the Form I-751 instructions before completing this part. Note, if you selected box 1A in Part 3, your spouse must also read and sign the petition, Part 8, signature of a conditional resident child under 14 years of age is not required. A parent may sign for a child. If you selected box 1A in part 3, your spouse must also read and sign the petition in part 8. Let's see what box 1A in part 3 says. Alright, so this is part 3 and this is 1A. This is a joint filing with a spouse. That would mean that your spouse must also read and sign the petition in part 8. Petitioner's statement. And just a point of note here, the petitioner in this case is the applicant, the person with the conditional residence. Select the box for either item number 1A or 1B if applicable. Select the box for item number 2. 1A, I can read and understand English and have read and understand every question and instruction on this petition as well as my answer to every question. I have read and understand the acknowledgement of appointment at USCIS Application Support Center. If you, the applicant, have completed the form on your own without the assistance of an interpreter, then you would select 1A. If you used an interpreter, you select 1B. Check 1B if you used an interpreter, the language that you speak or your primary language would go into the box. If you used a preparer, you would check this box and write the preparer's name with a black ink pen after printing the form. Moving on. Petitioner's contact information. Again, this is the person's contact information, the person applying for the conditional residence to be removed, the applicant of this form. That person's daytime telephone number, mobile number, and email address go into this section here. Acknowledgement of appointment at USCIS Application Support Center. The applicant's name goes in this box. So after printing the form, write your name in with a black ink pen. You are also required to sign the petitioner's signature and date the document the same time you sign. Read the information, all the information in your own time. Part 8. Spouses or individual listed in Part 4. Statement, contact information, acknowledgement of appointment, USCIS Application Support Center, certification and signature. This section is for the U.S. citizen or permanent resident through which you would have gained your conditional residence. That would be the applicant's spouse. You, the applicant, would need to select the box that's applicable to your spouse. If an interpreter was used, write the language communicated in this box. If there was a preparer used, the preparer's name goes in this box. And you would check the number that corresponds with the response that's applicable in your situation. Spouses or individuals' contact information. So the spouse of the applicant contact information goes in this section. Moving on. Spouses or individual listed in Part 4, statement, contact information, and so on. After the form is printed, the spouse's name goes here. So since this is a joint filing with the applicant's spouse, then the applicant's spouse information name goes in this box. If an interpreter was used, the interpreter's full name goes into this section, and business information, also interpreter's mailing address. Since one was not used in this case, we write NA in all the boxes that are for the interpreter. Moving on, interpreter's information here, again, you're going to put not applicable, since an interpreter was not used. If an interpreter is used in your case, then you would need to fill in the information that's applicable. The languages that the interpreter is fluent in. So I am fluent in English, and whatever language, other language the interpreter is fluent in goes here. And you would read through all the questions to make sure that you complete the information correctly as it relates to an interpreter if one is used. Same goes for the section of the preparer. If a preparer was used, we're going to fill in the name, contact information, and all the information that's applicable to the preparer. Since one was not used in this instance, you can go through and either write with a black ink pen or type any in the spaces. Moving on, part 10, prepare a signature. One would not be applicable since one was not used. So you could fill in NA in the boxes. Moving on, additional information here in part 11. So if you have additional information that you did not have sufficient space for above, then this is where you would need to place the information. You would need to type or write your name in the sections here, your A number, the page number, the part number, the item number applicable to the additional information that you're providing here. So this section here is self-explanatory. If you need extra space to provide any additional information within this petition, use the space below. If you need more space than what is provided, you may make copies of this page to complete and file with this petition, or attach a separate sheet of paper. Type or print your name and A number, if any, at the top of each sheet. Indicate the page number, part number, and item number to which your answer refers, and sign and date each sheet. This wraps up our completion of Form I-751, Petition to Remove Conditions on Residence. Thank you for watching, and catch you in the next video.